Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Salt and Burn This, a supernatural rewatch podcast. Hi,
Hello.
Valerie. How's it
Hi,
going?
Sammy. Going good.
Doing good. I have to tell you, this is what the start of the fourth one that we've done because we redid the first one.
This may be episode 3 for you, but it is
Right.
episode
It's like
4 for us.
four-ish for us. After every episode, I am exhausted. It's like I'm so not used to talking for this amount of time. I think
It
even before, I know it's like pandemic related ish, but also before, I was not like one to just sit and talk and talk and talk and talk. So
right
about at the
because there's a lot of listening involved, and right now all we're doing is
yeah,
talking.
I know. But about the 45-minute mark, I'm just like, oh man.
Man, Valerie,
No, no, it's not you. It's just
no.
it in general.
You are right. I was after that last one. I was ready to break into the wine. I was done today. And not like, oh my God, that was terrible. But it was just looked at my watch and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I
Where
just did
did
a full day's work in an hour
yes,
and a half.
yes, exactly. It's crazy. It's amazing. I love it. It's mentally stimulating. We need to do it more.
Yeah, I agree. I also am very much enjoying rewatching these and like paying attention because there are so, I mean, I've said this before, I think, but this one really, I was just like, oh man, this is such a juicy episode. I made so many notes.
I did too. I'm so sorry.
I know we may need to split this up into two. We'll see how long it is
Okay.
at the end of it, but this could be a two-parter just because it was so
It's pretty meaty.
it was
It's
meaty, yeah,
you know what? I like your word better. Juicy.
juicy.
It was definitely juicy.
It fits the theme of the episode.
I find myself literally leaning forward and watching the episodes.
Mhm, mhm.
You know, it's like I set myself up and I just watch it and I take it in and I'm enjoying it more than just like, oh, Supernatural's on.
Yeah,
You know, I'm watching it and
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
enjoying the process. And I
yes.
also, I guess, in relation to where the series ends, which I'm still haven't watched the final, but in where the
Mhm.
journey takes us, going back and watching where they started, it I
Yeah,
think makes it more enjoyable
uh-huh,
knowing where they end up.
yeah, agreed. So, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so today we're going to be doing episode 3, Dead in the Water, directed by Kim Manners.
X Files.
Mhm. Written by Sarah Gamble and Rael Tucker, two lady writers.
Yes.
I think that you can tell that this was written by two women. Personally, that was just me. And I don't know if that was colored by the fact that I knew beforehand, but
I'm going to say yes, with the exception of one point, which we'll come up to
yeah.
in a
Yes, I think I know where you're going with it, but
okay.
I think that I have an argument for why it needed to be there. But anyway,
Okay.
um, I don't know if Eric Kripke was also on the writing team here. He was just credited as created by, so I'm not sure if he had much to do with the actual writing of the episode.
Maybe not. Maybe he's just showrunner.
Right.
Just.
Yeah.
Just the guy who runs the show.
Okay. Here's the description on Netflix. In a small town in Wisconsin, Sam and Dean investigate a series of mysterious drownings officially explained as suicides. That is incorrect.
That is absolutely incorrect.
And I rewatched like the beginning parts, where they're talking to the cops to see if there's any mention at all of suicide. Not
Not
the
a
word
single mention.
suicide is not even in this episode.
Nope. Sam and Dean don't even bring it up.
No, it's not even an option as like,
No.
could it be a suicide? No.
Wow, Netflix.
Yeah, very weird. An interesting MapQuest moment for this. The setting is in Lake Manitowoc, Wisconsin. Does not exist. That is not a place.
Right, I know. I went right to it. I was like, tick, 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 tick.
Uh,
Oh, so close.
I know. I think it was inspired by Manitowoc.
Yes.
Apologies if I'm saying that incorrectly, but Lake Manitowoc, not a thing.
Yep. So I have a question
Hmm.
because we're doing this map quest thing.
Hmm.
They aren't always starting in Lawrence, Kansas, are they? They're
I
like
don't
on
think
the road
so.
somewhere
Yeah.
because they're looking for their dad.
Yes. Yes.
So my
And
question.
I'm not sure where they started this episode at. I tried to get clues. I
Mhm.
know they were in a diner, like a truck stop somewhere, but um, there was no clue, and they do not mention where it is
Where
they
they
are.
are.
I assume it's somewhere in Wisconsin, since Dean is looking at newspapers.
About the area. Yeah. And
Yeah.
circling
Yes, and I don't, they wouldn't have access to those newspapers just anywhere.
anywhere. Right.
And it was a physical newspaper, it wasn't a printout of a newspaper.
Right. And he wasn't looking online. He was looking at a newspaper.
Hmm.
So
All right.
interesting.
So, start of the episode, it opens at a beautiful lake, beautiful house, this kind of gentle family sitcom music opening up. Some cutesy brother sister banter. It's a little basic, but still, it
Right.
definitely has the feeling of like Family Matters or something like that.
Right. Right. Gentle ribbing.
Hmm.
You know, brother makes fun of sister, sister makes fun of brother.
Yep.
Yep.
And then she heads to the lake. Spooky water.
Right. She goes to work out because she's a swimmer.
Yeah, she's a swimmer. But here, I want to mention, because in the first episode, we were talking about spooky water.
Yeah.
At the end, because it was crawling down the stairs and everything. And uh, you mentioned it's spooky because it's not in its natural setting, but here, water is only in its natural setting.
And it's
Totally
spooky.
creepy and scary the whole time.
Yeah, and it's super dark.
It's dark, and you know
It's
what? The not the voices that are underneath, but the actual sound of the water, like swishing, to
Mhm.
me it was evoking something. It was just
Yeah.
so, I don't know, textured or something. It was enough to make me go, "Oh,"
Yeah.
like
The
a
first thing I
weird.
wrote, first thing I wrote was creepy water.
Yes.
And then the second note I wrote was drowning. I already have this fear.
Oh, really?
I
Well,
already have this fear of drowning.
yeah, I
I
think a lot
mean,
of people do. It's not, but anyway, yeah. There's the Jaws moment, where the camera's coming up to her.
right from underneath, she doesn't know it's
Yes.
there.
We don't know
Right.
what's there.
Right. Something is watching her from underneath.
Uh-huh. And then drags
Digging.
her down. There's not even a struggle. It's just like whoop,
Gone.
gone.
Yep. Yep. One of my notes was lake, dark water, burr. Because she's standing on the edge of the dock before she dives in and gets pulled down under. She's like standing there in a bikini getting ready to jump in.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, it doesn't look warm and inviting to me. People who
No.
swim in lakes, I think, have a special caliber of fearlessness.
Yeah, totally. And this is Wisconsin, not known to be a warm place.
Right? And she just dives right in and starts swimming.
Well, maybe since this is a fictional place, maybe this is like a little oasis pocket of Wisconsin.
Right. So it's a hot water lake.
Yeah.
So before she gets pulled under, though, as she's swimming, something makes her stop for a
Hmm.
second, stop her laps, and she's kind of looking around. And I can't tell if she's looking around because she's just, enjoying the lake and nature, or if she hears the whispers that we now hear. There are voices, but I couldn't understand what they were saying, and I'm wondering if she hears them too, or if the voices were only there for us to alert the viewer something unnatural is happening
Hmm.
here.
I think that she does hear them, because a little later on, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but um, the Andrea, the girl, like the main
The
one-off
the
girl,
mom,
Amy
yeah.
Ackers, yeah, the mom. She says something. It's like, I heard this voice saying, "Come play with me,"
Mm,
which I didn't quite understand, like, what that voice was saying at the time. I heard the voice, but
there's a lot happening in
yeah,
that moment,
yeah.
so
So anyway, so I think, yes, she does hear something. Maybe not it explicitly saying, "Come play with me," or whatever,
mhm.
whatever the words are. But I think she does hear something, which makes her stop.
So, I wanted to mention something. We always talk about the logo, how the show starts, like
Uh-huh.
what's supernatural, whether it's a splatter or it's this.
Uh-huh.
Supernatural for this season, or at least for these episodes, has been like this electric
Mhm.
ghost, and it zooms at you. It's one of those like in your face. If you were watching this on a super big screen, the logo would like supernatural like hit you in the face.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Uh,
like almost like a staticky TV a little bit.
yes, yes. So I just wanted to be like, oh, it's ghosty. It's that
Yes.
same electric ghost from the pilot episode. It's that ghosty
Uh-huh.
feeling of
Yeah.
of static and unnatural.
Glitchiness.
Yes,
Mhm.
glitch. So I just wanted to point that out, that I love it and I look for it. Oh, I just spit. I loved it so much. I actually spit.
All right. So after this girl gets dragged under this scary lake, immediate shot of a diner, one of many that we will see.
One of a million. Yes.
Yes. Um, right off the bat, at 3 minutes and 9 seconds, is a major, major horn dog Dean moment.
Dean's still a douchebag.
Oh my god! And I had this at, at the start of this, because honestly, I didn't quite remember the intricacies of this episode. Like I remember, oh, there was a ghost in the water, people died, and then mystery got solved.
Right.
But at this moment, I made it. I was like, really, writers with this costume, the girl, this
Right.
beautiful, beautiful girl wearing a super sexy tank top,
Like
little
corset tank
yeah,
top.
almost corsety Daisy Dukes and wedge heels, working
Yeah.
as a waitress in a diner.
Right.
Never, ever, ever have I seen that or done that, because I've worked as a waitress in like
Right.
little places like this before. I would
Yeah.
never wear wedge heels in a kitchen. Are you kidding me?
Right. You're like, you want tips, but
Yeah,
you also want to be able to walk at the end of the day.
right.
Yeah. So this is the moment where I was like, shame on you women for writing this. Because Sam comes in and interrupts Dean from, literally cock blocks him, um, for lack of a better terminology.
Hmm.
But so Dean ends up saying, we're allowed to have fun. And then he points at the waitress's ass and says, that's fun.
Yeah,
And while I get it, I was actually really insulted by the woman being referred to as that,
that,
as
yeah.
opposed to she's fun. You
Hmm.
know, and that's what took me out for as far as the, female writers writing
Yeah,
the
it was
show.
really, it was a really gross moment.
Yeah. Grr.
Yes, but then
But
Sam
completely
is
Dean though.
yeah, it is completely Dean
Yeah.
for this time being.
Yes.
Uh, and then Sam again is the moral compass, being like, Come on, dude,
Yeah.
put it back in your pants. We
Yeah.
gotta, we got
Go
things to
play
do."
dad. Yeah.
But then Sam kind of turns into a little bit of a child, I guess, for lack of a better term. Saying like, "We need to find Dad." He's just like so focused on Dad. And then Dean kind of turns into the adult for a minute and is like,
We have to
listen,
help
I get
people.
it. We have to help people along the way.
Yeah. Absolutely. You are exactly right. I agree with that. It's funny how they flip flop. I
Hmm.
mean, they flip flop, but they still spin on their own axis. They still stay who they are. They just take turns on who's the guiding force
Yeah.
in the episode.
Okay. So then they say, Lake Manitok, how far? Well,
Well,
who knows?
who knows? A, it doesn't exist, and B, we don't know where you're starting from. So, so who knows?
Yeah, who knows? It cuts to the car and like some General Mullet Rock going,
Yep. And off they go.
and off they go to what's sheriff's office, right? That's where they first hit.
Hmm. Now, do we meet the sheriff first, or do we meet Amy Acker first?
We meet the sheriff first.
Okay, the sheriff.
Hmm.
Do you recognize this actor?
No, I don't.
Okay. He had his own TV show in the 80s called Hardcastle and McCormick.
Oh my God.
And Hardcastle McCormick was about a judge and an ex-con race car driver. And McCormick, the guy, I have his name here. Hold on. Daniel Hugh Kelly played Mac McCormick. So
Oh my
he was
God.
the ex-con race car driver.
Oh my God.
And yeah, and so the judge gets him released from jail so that he can help fight crime, basically. And I think it had 3 seasons.
Oh my god, that's such an 80s plot line.
Yes, and it was, and there was the race car, and it was one of those like low ride, like like it didn't belong on city streets. It was a
Yeah.
race car.
Oh my god.
But McCormick got to drive it. I think it was Mac Skid McCormick
Oh
was
my
his name.
lord.
Yeah, and I think it lasted for 3 whole seasons. But so when the sheriff walks in, I was like, oh, it's McCormick from Hardcastle and McCormick. So, and of course, we keep talking about Amy Acker as if she's a character.
I
Amy
know.
Acker is an actress who I first fell in love with on Angel.
Yes,
She
me too.
played Fred on Angel, and she's been on 1,000 other shows since then.
Yeah.
Person of Interest, Alias, to name just a couple. But
Right.
so this show has 2 famous guest stars.
Interesting. I only knew of the one just because I did love Amy Ackers and Angel so much. The character Fred was just wonderful and then heartbreaking. And anyway, we're not talking about Angel.
I know.
So anyway, backtracking a little bit. So they go to the sheriff's office. Did you catch the aliases that they used?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I look forward to this every time. Every
Yeah.
time somebody opens a door to see Dean and Sam standing there holding up a badge or an ID of some kind, I'm like, who are they going to be?
Yes.
And who did they say?
They said Ford and Hamill.
Yes, Han Solo.
Which is the inspiration for their characters.
Right.
Which is
so
great.
I have to say, though, there's an outtake of this moment.
Really?
And yes, and it cracks me up. The door opens because it's the brother of the girl who drowned. And he opens the front door.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it's the brother first, and then the sheriff, and
then the sheriff. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So it's the brother of the girl who drowned, and the door opens. Dean and Sam are standing there, and Dean is supposed to say, "I'm Ford, he's Hamill," but instead he says, "Hi, we're with the wait. Oh, where did I wrote it down? Hi, we're with the Wildlife Services, and he'd like to scratch your balls." I think he forgot their names, and so instead of saying, "I'm Ford, he's Hamill," he says, "Hi, we're with the Wildlife Services, and he'd like to scratch your balls." And so that's that's just one of the outtakes I found, and that cracks me up.
Oh my god. Like to scratch your balls. That is such a. This is very. I am genderizing a little bit, but that is a very typical boy sense of humor.
Right? Absolutely.
That I find funny as well, but
yes,
it wouldn't be my first go-to of an ad lib.
Could you imagine if you were the actor having to face them while somebody says,
"Oh my god!" And then it's such a serious moment too.
Yes, we like come in and talk to you about the death of your sister, but he'd like to scratch your balls.
And speaking of Wildlife Service, this is the third fake ID type that we've seen. So 3 for 3 at this point.
Yes. So there's so the brother is explaining to them, to Dean and Sam, why she didn't just drown. Like, they didn't find her body. She couldn't have just drowned. She was a varsity swimmer. He even says she's as safe out there as if she were in her own bathtub. ... And it's kind of a throwaway line.
Yeah.
But hold on to that.
I found there were a few throwaway lines in here. It's writing. Some of the writing was a little like, but anyway, for the most part, I did like it. I also wrote down, Sam has excellent bedside manner. I would want him to be the one to tell me I have like a horrible disease or something.
Yes. Yeah, I say Sam is still able to relate to people, whereas Dean relates to the monsters.
Yeah.
Sam says, "Are you okay? How is your dad dealing with this?" And Dean says, "What, did you see any shadows? Did you hear any noises? Did you notice anything? Pull her under?" So Dean's all about the monsters. Sam's all about the...
Yeah. Well, maybe because Dean has been jaded by being on the road so much, like doing this for his whole life.
Absolutely.
Then blah blah blah. We already talked about Amy Ackers a little early. Oh, and then I have at 7 minutes 37 seconds, Horn Dog Dean again, with this little like eyeballing up and down of Amy Ackers, aka Andrea.
Yes. And shot down.
Oh, she totally sasses him, and I love it.
Yes. Like she totally shoots down his one liner. She's like, you can't even come up with a decent pickup
Yeah, and you
line.
could see it in her face right away. She's like,
Nice try.
yeah, I'm not going for this.
Yeah. Good for her.
Yeah, totally.
Good for her. Because again, two outrageously attractive men, you know, walk into her the little podunk, Wisconsin town, and she's like, no.
Yeah.
So I have the next big thing for me
Mm-hmm.
is so we're back at the brother's house, the brother of the girl who drowned, and dad is sitting in the bark lounger watching TV and is basically catatonic. Like the dad just,
Mm.
you know, glazed over. And the brother, whose name I should have written down, is like, all right, dad, well, you should eat something, so I'm gonna go make you some dinner. So he goes into the
That's a
kitchen.
long ways away.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, we
okay.
told like the scene with like Dean talking to the kid, that comes first.
It does?
Pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it comes first. Because I have after a nice sass Amy Ackers, I legit laughed out loud at the name 3 kids that you even know. When Sam says to Dean. That
Right.
made me like a little like, ha,
Uh,
that is funny.
I did say Dean doesn't like kids, but can relate to Lucas, and Lucas bonds with Dean for some reason, which I find
Yes.
humorous. That it's like, people who are allergic to cats. That's cats always find the people who are allergic, and for some reason, Dean is able to bond with.
Well, this is wise because
Lucas.
they're in the motel, which has, I was trying to like guess the theme of this one. It was kind of hard to tell. It looked like orange lava wallpaper. I don't know. But when Sam is trying to figure out like what the hell is going on, there's 3 bodies and they've disappeared. And then he comes across Christopher Barr. And then they find out that that was Lucas's father and that Lucas witnessed his father drowning. And then Dean says, well, yeah, that can be really traumatic watching a parent die,
Right.
which Dean has done. You know, he's been a child who watched his
Mother.
mother die. And so then when he goes to talk to the kid, you know, because they're trying to just get a little information out of him, or, you know, because he is the only eyewitness that they
Only
can
link.
find. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then he's just like, no, I understand. You know, seeing something like that is really traumatic. And I saw something not great when I was a kid too. And that's why Dean connects with him.
I totally glossed over that. I mean, I watched it and it like meant something to me.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I think I got a little too caught up in like the symbolism of watching, like, because while Dean is talking to Lucas, the boy, he's drawing.
Yeah.
They're both drawing.
Yeah.
And I think I got a little caught up in trying to figure out the symbolism of
Oh, the drawings.
like the drawings. And I think I may have just missed the emotion of the scene.
Oh, I see. No, I think that's why Dean went to the kid. Like he volunteers. He's like, hey, mind if I go say hi? Because he felt drawn to the kid first. I don't think the other way around. And because he establishes like kind of a connection with the kid, and then that's why Lucas is then it keeps like
So he's
coming to him.
he's pulled out of the horn dog moment of trying to score points with the mom
Yes.
by pretending to like the kid. He actually now has an interest in the kid's history.
Trauma. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Andrea tells Sam, because Sam goes and sits with Andrea while Dean is chilling with the kid. And she says, like, yeah, he hasn't spoken since his dad's accident. You know, the therapists think that it's some sort of post-traumatic stress disorder. And he just sits there and draws all day. And then when Dean comes back, you know, then Lucas shows up and he said, gives him a drawing of a house. I did note that this is a little bit out of out of the seriousness of the moment, but the picture that Dean draws, you know, is this like what four stick people.
Yeah.
And then he puts it down, and when he walks away, then the kid picks it back up. He doesn't.
Sideways.
Yeah, he doesn't turn it right side up.
Yeah, I saw that too. It's sideways. I was like, Valerie, let it go.
I know. So did
I,
I, but I couldn't
I-
help it. It's like, oh, that's a little goof.
I was like, well, maybe he has an artist's eye, or maybe something's gonna come up. Nope, nope. The kid just didn't turn the
Hmm.
picture the right
And
way.
there was also a tiny bit of I don't think it was intentional at this moment. I think later on they kind of went back and looked for things. But Dean picks up a little army man. He's just like, oh man, these army men. I used to love playing with these things. Pew pew pew. Which in season 5, the finale,
Right?
yeah,
I
little
remember.
army guy.
Oh my god, that's right. I forgot about that. It's funny because I'm looking for things like while I'm watching, I'm totally looking, and I was like, there has to be something that's in these army guys. There has to be something. And in watching it, I was like, nope, you're again, Valerie, you're trying too hard to find something. So I should have tried harder.
No, it was just that was just like one of those moments in the season 5 episode that,
Mhm.
well, I mean, everything in that episode is great, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're still in season 1.
4 seasons ahead
I
of
know.
ourselves.
Okay,
So
now we come to
So yeah. So they go back to now my question is, do they go to this house because of the drawing of the house? I don't think they do. I think they went to the house because it's the brother, it's the father of the swimmer girl who drowned.
Mhm.
Did they wind up at the house because Lucas gave them a drawing of the house?
No, I don't think so. I think, they're just kind of keeping in loop with like evidence, of like the connections and stuff. So Sam says that he drove by the Carlton house and sees ambulances and
That's
comes
right.
back and
They go
says,
back
Will
there.
is dead. He drowned in the sink.
Right.
Right.
Right. They do go back there.
Hmm.
So yeah, so the brother drowns in the sink, in the kitchen sink. Um, and once again, it's scary. This stuff is scary.
It was
But
scary before it even turns gross. Like I felt like
right,
that water was so gross before it even turned
see,
actually gross.
gross water,
Uh-huh.
scary.
Yeah.
So the son is like he was filling the sink or he was running the water to
Hmm.
like clean the fish. He had fish. The water changed color, so he turned off the sink. Then the pipes start to back up. So all this ooky, gross stuff starts coming up through the pipes. My question is, who just stands there and watches this happen?
Yeah.
Like the second something comes up through my pipes, I am
Like,
running. I
oh shit.
am yes, what do I do? How do I turn this off? Where are the towels? Holy crap,
Uh-huh.
this is not normal and plus it's gross.
Yeah.
Anything that's gone down the sink should not be coming back up the sink.
Agreed.
Same thing like when your toilet overflows. I mean, panic.
Yes.
Panic. So the fact that he's like, huh,
Hmm.
he's just like waits for the sink to fill up and then sticks his hand in. Sticks his hand in the sink and
And he's
something
also
grabs
not
him.
really questioning why this water is so green
Gross.
and black.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess maybe this happens all the time living on the lake
Maybe.
that your
Yeah.
pipes just back up.
I guess so.
Um, but I mean, I have to say that anytime I have to stick my hand in a sink, I have that thought of
Mm.
what's going to grab me and is the incinerator going to turn on?
Yeah.
Like, am
Yeah.
I going to get my hand?
Yes.
So those things actually still actively go in my thoughts. Of
Oh,
course,
totally.
unless I can actually see. But if it's like soapy water, I'm like, I don't want to put my
Hmm.
hand in this
Hmm.
water.
Hmm.
But he does. He doesn't just pull the chain and pull the plug out. He sticks his hand all the way in to the sink to pull out the plug. And he pulls out the plug, which, by the way, had already been pulled out.
Oh, had it been?
Continuity.
Oh.
Absolutely. I was so mad when I saw that. Yes, it had already been pulled out. And
Oh,
then
that's funny.
magically it was back in and then it was out. So that aside, he's grabbed. We don't see what grabs him. Something grabs him and not only just grabs his arm, but it is able to overpower him and pull his head into the sink
Yeah.
and drown him.
Yes. And there's also like screaming sounds in this water.
Yes.
Ugh.
So not only, our screaming.
Yeah.
I mean, and he kicks over, a paint can in the kitchen or
Yeah.
something. I mean, he's making a ruckus and he tragically is drowned. And then the sink magically, unclogs
Hmm.
and drains.
Hmm.
Daddy O did not awaken out of his little TV stupor.
No, and I think that's okay because I don't know if when you're drowning, I don't know how much noise you're making. Underwater you are, but that's kind of muffled, except for maybe
Okay.
the knocking around of the paint cans. But also his dad's just in a stupor, so
Okay. Well,
he
then
could have legit
I
been
will leave
asleep.
it. Yeah, I'll leave it that he's in a catatonic state and just
Yeah,
can't hear anything.
yeah.
But that was my, why didn't Dad hear this? I mean, I heard it. What?
I heard it.
I heard it. Why didn't he? Oh, I even made a note here. I should just read my notes before I speak, because I made a note about when the boy has a picture of the house, and that's how Dean and Sam figure to go back after the drowning. After the boy is drowned, not the boy, the brother whose name I didn't write down is drowned in the
No,
sink.
yeah, Will.
Will, thank
I
you.
think I think it's Will. The father's I know is named Bill.
Oh, geez, Bill and Will.
So then Sam and Dean figure out the connection,
Hmm.
or like at least the connection that they can find at the moment, which is Bill Carlton, the father, being that both his kids drowned.
Mhm. But don't they also figure out that there's something wrong with the lake itself, like
Yes,
the
yes,
the
because
dam is
since
breaking?
well, yeah, at the beginning they said the sheriff says, well, the lake is going to disappear in a few months because the dam is like busted, and
It's gonna
you
drain.
you guys didn't give us any money, being the
The-
wildlife services that they are. So yeah, the lake is going to disappear, probably the town too. I don't know if that's actually a thing that has happened to small towns in the past. Probably.
I'm sure it has. I know that towns have been flooded in the making of lakes, like when they build a dam
Mm,
and they flood a valley and stuff like that. I'm sure the exact opposite has happened when
the lake
there's
dries up.
upkeep on the, yeah.
Yes. So when they find out the connection, and then they find out that the son didn't drown in the lake, but in the sink, and that, oh, this is the same water, it's coming from the same water source, it just came through
It's
the pipes. There's something
still
with
the lake.
this lake.
Yep.
And then the lake kind of becomes, or the water, no, the lake, it
It's
becomes
the
a
lake.
character.
Yep. Yep. And at the same time, the dad has figured it out. Now
Yes.
that both of his children have drowned,
Mm-hmm.
he's figured it out. You don't know what he's figured out, but
Yes.
he's figured out his connection. We still don't know what it is,
Right.
but he's figured it out.
Yeah, he knows it. So then Sam and Dean, they go back to Andrea's house with Lucas because they think Lucas knows something here. They mention like traumatic experiences can lead to odd skills that have never shown up before, or even sometimes premonitions. I had meant to look this up to see if this was actually true or not, and I didn't. But for the sake of this episode, it is. So they think, no, Lucas knows something because he's suffered this, incident.
Mhm.
So they go back to maybe get like another drawing or something. And then Dean goes to Lucas in, his little soft way. And he talks to Lucas about losing his mom. It's like, I saw my mom get killed. And I saw, now, again, I was just like watching in like real time, and or making these notes in real time. I wrote down like as a personal interpretation that I don't think Sam has ever heard Dean talk about his mom like that, or at least ever heard him speak about her to other people, or like
Mhm.
tell like basically the real story.
Right, with an emotion attached to it, as opposed to this is what happened. He's actually talking about how it affected him.
Yes, but also physically, it's just like I saw my mom get killed, and it was really terrible for me, like as a child seeing that. And then later on, I wrote down like I was right because because
Because
Sam
Sam
and
points it out.
yes, he's just like I've never heard you tell that about mom before.
Yeah. And you are right. You are absolutely right. And I find it interesting that it's like, at what point, it's like Dean doesn't have to share that moment with Lucas.
Right.
He doesn't have to, he chooses to.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I think that, that says something about his character.
Yes, he's been uh giving us little moments of like vulnerability here and there, and he keeps like growing in this episode. Oh, I saw tall locks on the car still. The
You
locking
saw
the
yeah, yeah,
locking
yeah, it's all
mechanisms on the
still
car are
there,
still very
still there.
tall.
See, now you're never gonna be able to unsee that.
I know.
I'm so sorry I did that to you. We will find the episode where they changed the locking mechanisms on the Impala. So, because they figured it out that it's the dad,
Hmm.
that it's that family connection, they go out to the house, right? Because they are able to look back at the drawing that Lucas made and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's their house. That's this so there must be
Well, he
uh
gave them another drawing
of a
like a
church."
different house. Yeah, church and a house.
So do they go see the old lady first?
Yeah, they see the old lady because they're like trying to figure out. It's like, man, how many yellow houses do you think would be in this town? And then Sam, using his little lawyer out of the box skills, he's just like, well, this church,
There's also a church in this drawing.
there's
Let's go
probably not too many of those. And then Dean points out, like, oh, big college boy, huh?
find.
But you know what? Adding Sam to this team really makes them better hunters, because he can use those out of the box thinking skills
Yeah,
of
yeah.
his
Yep,
to
school
get
book.
to get to
Mhm.
the point faster. So yes, then they go see the old lady.
Yeah, and it turns out her son
Hmm.
disappeared and he rode a bike. He was supposed to ride
Yes.
his bike home.
And he didn't show up.
And she, of course, has the immortal line of, having your child die before you is worse than being dead yourself,
Hmm.
which I believe the father said.
Yeah, he did
Did
in the
he not?
beginning. Yeah, they both say it's worse than dying, and those are what that was one of those like throwaway moment lines where I was just like, okay.
But then they also figure out, is it there that they figure out that there's that the little boy who disappeared originally, who didn't come home from riding his bike, um that he was friends, like was there a Boy Scout picture or something, or is that a
Yeah,
discovery?
no, that was a picture in the old lady's house that they find of her son and someone standing next to him, and on the back. On the back it said, I can't remember the kid's name, the original kid's name.
Mhm.
It said his name and Bill Carlton, 1977 or whatever.
Gotcha. Haha. Bill.
Yes, Bill.
So now do they race back to Bill's house? Now do they? When do they race back to the father?
Yes, yes, that's when they do.
Because now they're in a rush. They don't
Yep.
just like randomly show up. Now they're like driving to that
Mm-hmm.
house
Yes.
um in a hurry.
Uh-huh.
And they see the dad, who has figured out that he is probably part of the cause of both his children drowning tragically,
Mm-hmm.
and he's jumped in his motorboat, which is the slowest motorboat I've ever seen on television, outside of a comedy.
Yeah.
Um, and he's just putting out to the middle of the lake.
Yep.
And Dean and Sam see him and realize that him being near the water is catastrophic. And so
Mm-hmm.
they race to the end of a pier and they're trying to get him to turn around and come back. We can help you, come back, come back, come back.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the lake has other
Mm-hmm.
plans for him.
Yeah.
And essentially just I thought like the boat got blown out of the water, but it's like it got blown up and sank at the same time.
Yeah, it was
Like
really odd.
you don't see what happens. It just kind of goes pshoo,
Mm-hmm.
and then bubbles, and that's it.
Yeah.
Which I guess goes to show that you don't see what happened to the body, you don't see what happened to the boat. It's just gone.
Yeah, which is pretty unnatural. I mean, an
I
explosion out of the water is pretty of a lake is pretty unnatural anyway. But the whole how he got taken in the boat
mm,
too was also unnerving in the way that it didn't really move.
right, right. So this brings me to my second outtake of the episode.
Yay!
Yay. So how hard is it to react to something that isn't actually there, right?
Mm.
So when somebody says, pretend there's a big wave
Mm.
coming at you. Oh, big
Yeah.
wave. Well, so the actors Jared and Jensen have to react to witnessing this boat being blown out of the water. But it's all CGI. Nothing. I mean, that's the other thing, is that this was not a real, this was a CGI
Yeah.
moment, and it's
Yeah.
clearly CGI.
Yes.
And I think in this outtake, Jensen and Jared are reacting to what they perceive is going to be a ridiculously CGI moment.
Yeah.
And so they have shocked faces in, the camera's just on them showing them being shocked. And then Jensen jumps into Jared's arms like, oh my gosh, hold me, what do we do? And cut.
Yeah.
So, clearly not what the directors were looking for in that
Right.
moment. So that is my second and final outtake moment of this
Oh,
episode.
final. Boo.
Well, for this episode that
Yes.
I found.
Yeah.
Which I love. So I don't know if I mentioned it, but I love outtakes.
Yeah. Yeah, you do.
I love outtakes. I love bloopers, outtakes. Not such a fan of deleted scenes because I feel like deleted scenes are deleted for a reason. But outtakes and bloopers just show the humanity.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
All doing a job, and I love it.
Yeah, outtakes are great. Oh, so then after the boat explodes, they go to the sheriff again. But by this time, the sheriff has figured out who they are, or who they're not. I should say
they are not.
Yeah. He's really pissed off, and he's also feeling attacked. He's just like, "What, you think that I had something to do with this?" Tells him to leave, like get the f out, or
yes, get the hell out of my town. Yeah.
So then they're leaving. Sam is fine with leaving. Just like, okay, well, I guess we did what we could.
Everyone's attached to that lake is dead. So
yeah, but Dean, and I have here written Sam logic versus Dean gut feelings, which again makes them better hunters because Sam is laying out the logic of like, there's nothing else we can do. This person's dead. This person's dead. This person's dead.
Let's go find Dad.
And Dean is just like, you know what? I can't let this go because what if?
Right.
What if we're wrong?
Right. Correct. Wrong. Right. Yeah. And instead of turning left to get back to the freeway, he turns right and goes back into town, which is awesome.
Yes. A very redeeming Dean moment. Not the only one in this episode. No. So they go to Andrea's house. She's, just checking up on Lucas, saying like, oh, you should go to bed, honey. It's really late. Puts him to bed, and then she starts a bath.
Which is never a good thing for a female in a scary show.
Yeah. It's filling up a bathtub. It's the fastest bathtub I've ever seen filled up.
Absolutely. And the never ending fill up.
Because she just keeps the water running.
It just keeps going.
Even though the water is literally at the rim of the bathtub.
I have to say, I'm very jealous of how deep her tub was.
I know.
It was a very luxurious tub. Yeah, it's never a good sign when the female in the show draws a bath, gets into a bath, and closes her eyes.
Yes. Yes.
That is just evil. So she gets into evil. She's surrounded by evil, and evil's going to get her. And guess what? The water is dark. And then the water turns gross, which nobody ever knows when they're being showered in blood or showered in goop. They never realize that the texture of the water has changed until they open their eyes and they are surrounded.
What happened?
By goo and gross and evil. Now, I have to say, her attack is far more violent than anyone's so far in this episode.
Yeah.
This is a scary thing. This isn't just a hand grabbing her, which we still haven't seen at this point.
Right.
And it is so violent.
Yes, it's violent. The camera and the effects here are very jerky movements. Again, unnatural, again, unnerving. And I was just like, I do not like this.
Yeah, because she's pulled under. She's pulled under so unnaturally.
Yes.
And she's held underwater so unnaturally that it's not just something pulling her under. I just can't. It's so forceful. It is so forceful.
Yeah, and you can see her like gripping the edge of the tub, like physically trying as hard as she can to pull herself out. And there is just something, just keeping just her face, like not even her whole head. Really, it's like,
she's able to like fling a leg over the side, and even that, she can't even use her leg strength to get her out of that. Yeah, I just very it was just I was taken aback by how violent
Yeah.
this attack was
Yeah.
on.
But thank God that Dean did have his gut feeling, because the minute he rings the doorbell, Lucas is opening up, having a panic attack,
Yeah.
just like, ah, and then brings the boys upstairs, starts banging on the bathroom door. And then Sam to the rescue, goes in, he's like, oh shit,
Sam
and
breaks down the
struggles.
door.
Yeah, breaks down the door and struggles,
He
struggles
cannot get her
to
out.
pull little Amy Ackers out
Yep.
of this bathtub.
Yep. And what's interesting is that it's Sam to the rescue. Dean is comforting the child,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But again, how hard does Sam struggle to get her out? I mean, he is. It's not like he's trying to lift heavy weights.
Yeah.
It's like a tug of war. He is
Yeah.
literally losing a battle of tug.
Uh-huh. And even when he gets most of her out, it just grabs again just her face back into the water.
Yep. It wants to kill her. It doesn't want to take her. It wants to
Uh-huh.
kill her.
Yeah.
And do you hear the voices? Did you hear the
Yes. I
voices?
did hear the voices this time. I was wearing headphones while I was watching. And I said, there are fucking voices in this water.
I was like, EVP?
Yeah.
I wrote it down. EVP? Would this be considered EVP?
But it wasn't just screaming. Like I had to like rewind it a couple times because I did hear words being said, but I couldn't make them out still.
Yeah, it's whispers.
Yeah.
It's whispers. It's something being said. It's not frantic in what's happening.
Yeah.
It's just malevolent. Whatever
Uh-huh.
the sound is, it is. I like that word now. Malevolent.
And I put in I find it funny, like my notes sometimes that I write, but after I put there are fucking voices in the water, and in parentheses I was like, help please, it was me trying to like figure out what it was
Oh,
that it
figure out the
said.
words. Oh.
And then like very shortly after, Andrea says what it's, and then I put, oh, come play with me. That's what it was.
Oh, see, I couldn't even hear words. I was just like, it just sounds evil to me. It just sounds like, disembodied voices. I mean, clearly it's disembodied voices, but it
Yeah.
didn't sound like, because sometimes they'll use children's voices as sing-songy, nursery rhymey,
Yes.
play
Yeah. Yeah. I know
with
what you mean.
me. And I wasn't hearing that. And that could just be that I've got terrible ears after
No,
25 years.
but after damn you opera singers. But no, after she said, I heard this voice and it was saying, come play with me. I did rewind it again. I couldn't hear that. I couldn't
Okay.
hear physically come play with me, no matter how high I had the volume turned up.
Mhm.
I did hear words, but I couldn't make them out. And I could not make out come play with me.
Ah, okay. So it wasn't just me.
No, it wasn't just you. I almost feel like maybe it was like an afterthought of like what the voice was saying. Maybe they recorded the voices first
Mhm.
and then decided what it was they were going to say in the
Yeah.
script. But
Yeah, I get it's
I
like
don't
when
know.
you get to the end of the episode though, you're like, come play with me because it's not it doesn't mesh with what the characters were going through, like what this child's journey is. It
I
doesn't mesh.
agree. I agree. They never really mention like why this kid is. I mean, I can kind of maybe interpret why, but they never. It's
Yeah.
never like something that the character in his life said or made a point of saying. So it was a weird. It was just. I think it was just like, this is a creepy phrase. Let's use it. For a ghost kid to use.
Yes, right. Ghost kid. Yes. So they save her. I mean,
Yes.
Sam rips her from the water, from the tub, and they're able to rescue her.
Yeah.
Um my next note is because it's the next scene. I don't know if it's the next day, like the next morning. Um, but they're talking about like what happened and why is this happening. And they see Lucas outside. He like walk off the front, like he walks out the front door and he's walking off into the woods or into the front yard. My question is, what the hell is Lucas wearing?
No, I didn't notice. What is he
He's
wearing?
wearing like sweatpants and a sweatshirt that are like
Oh, that's
5
right.
sizes too big. And I was
Yeah.
like, what the I mean, it's one thing that the kid's got, you know, out of style long hair for a little boy. I mean, it's cute, it's long hair, but it's, it's out of style for
Was it
like
out of
his age.
style in 2005?
Yeah, I think so.
I
I
can't
think
really
so,
remember, and nor do I really know what kids trend
right?
towards. I'm
Um,
completely out of touch with that.
But I mean, it makes sense that, for a kid who was traumatized by, watching his father drown, that, getting him in for a trendy haircut, probably not going to happen. But his clothes, I was like, what the heck? I mean, are they trying to draw a correlation between like Dean, who wears his dad's leather jacket and it's big on him? But they didn't
Hmm.
say anything about it, and they didn't refer to it. Just made me think that maybe he was just poorly costumed. But I was like,
Yeah.
what is he wearing? I mean, it
Yeah.
is gigantic
Yeah, I
clothing.
do remember that. I remember him standing on the
The dock.
bike,
Oh, on the
no,
bike.
the bike gravesite,
Oh, right,
so to
right, right.
speak. But they figure out they bring out like a photo album. Dean is looking for photo albums, for evidence. He's looking for any kind of evidence or connection. Like,
Mhm. Right.
why
Why
was
was she
she taken? Because at
right?
this point, there's no connection really. She's not related
Ex-
to the
Yeah.
Carltons.
Except that her husband was taken. So,
Yeah, that's
but they
true.
don't know why.
But then Dean finds a photo album with, um, oh God, I wish I would have looked up this kid's name. The original dead kid
Hmm.
finds him and Bill Carlton, brings it to Andrea and says, "Do you know anybody in this picture?" And she's like, "Not really, except my dad." And
And my dad
then it's
standing
like,
next to
ding ding,
the
light bulb moment for Sam and Dean. Be like, "Oh,
this is the kid. This is standing next to the kid who disappeared, who never came home that day from riding his bike.
Speaking of
Uh,
bike, then we see, baggy sweatpants kid just wandering, and then he just stops, and then they realize something's here. Maybe the body. They dig it up, and they find the bike.
that Lucas has actually drawings of. Like he was
Yes,
drawing it.
like several drawings of this bike.
And it's like this little kid's old bike. And it's buried in the dirt, which is horrifying
Yeah,
that it's a little kid's bike.
yeah, that is uncomfortable and sad. Um, but then Andrew's dad, aka the sheriff, is just there. Just kind of shows up, like he's catching on. He's just like, "Oh shit," or maybe she called him. Maybe she called him. Was like, "Oh my god, I almost drowned in my
Almost drowned in the
bathtub.
bathtub.
Help me."
As safe as she is in her own bathtub.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So he's there, draws a gun on the boys, and then the truth comes out. We hear like, we bullied this kid. He wanted, and here's where I think the "come play with me" thing came in. They might have said, they meaning Bill Carlton and the sheriff might have been like, "Oh, come play with us in the
Mhm.
water."
And then they held his head underwater until he
Yeah,
drowned.
yeah, they
Okay. I
accidentally
can
killed
see
him.
that, but I kind of don't. I just
Yeah,
the bullying, because if it's the boys who were bullying him, I don't think he would be saying, "Come play with me."
but I think they wanted to mess with him.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, we're not gonna hurt you. Come
Yeah,
on, come
yeah,
play
yeah,
with
yeah.
us. Yeah.
That has legit happened to me before when I was younger because I
Oh,
was massively bullied.
ab-
And they'd be
absolutely.
like, "Oh yeah, come join us. It'll be fine." And then it was not fine.
Oh, yeah, when I was little, I remember the first time I got, like, pushed down on the playground and I stood back up and then I got pushed down again. I was like, "Is
Hmm.
this the game? Is this how we play?
Yeah.
Is this
Right.
I don't know this. I don't understand this game." I didn't understand what bullying was until, someone's like, "Yeah, don't let them keep pushing you down." I was like, "What am I
Yeah.
supposed to do?"
Right. Right. But I do want to point out before we keep going, at 36 minutes and 9 seconds ish is the first mention, I think, of salting and burning things.
Yes! Yes! The name of our podcast is
Mhm.
Salt and Burn This,
Yes.
and Dean says we have to salt and burn the remains.
Yes.
Yes, I, like, made that really big in my notes, and I didn't
Uh-huh.
look here. I was like, "Oh my
Yeah. It's
god!
like, there
There it is!
it is.
There it is!" So if anyone's wondering why we call the podcast "The Salt and Burn This," it's because in order to release, uh, trapped ghosts from their earthly confines, you have to find the remains of a body, salt them, and burn them, and that releases the ghosts to either go to heaven or to go to hell,
Yeah.
but
Releases
away
their
from
spirits. Hmm.
yeah, releases them from Earth. Yes. So
Hmm.
they have to try to find the remains of this little boy.
Yes. But then the sheriff says, like, no, he
They
drowned. We left the body
let
in the
the
lake,
body go.
which
Yep.
is kind of, I think, like Sam and Dean's like last hope. Like, oh shit. Now we have to
Right.
find this other way. It's gonna be way harder. It may even be possible. I don't know. And this was the first time that I heard the voice say, "Come play with me," is when Lucas hears it. And it was also the first time that I heard it to begin with. And what I mean is, like, when I first watched this episode many years ago, or like kind of since then, I always just kind of saw the kid like get up and walk away. I never saw his or heard his reason of doing so. I thought it was just like him being a weird kid and, like,
Right? Yeah, same here. I was like, why would he just wander away during this
yeah.
like big moment?
So in this rewatch, it was the first time I heard in that
I
time moment.
didn't hear it.
Oh yeah, so the headphones.
Ah.
I heard the little voice saying like, "Oh, come play with me," and then he gets him and walks away.
And Lucas goes to play with the little boy.
Yes.
So this brings me to my jump out moment.
Uh-huh.
And again, there's a certain level of expectations when you watch a show like this. But up until now, it's just been, people disappearing under the water or, people being pulled in. You don't know what it is. Lucas standing on the edge of a dock, or he's now kneeling, and he, goes to reach his hand into the water. And of course, out comes a hand, finally, we see. And it's not just a hand, it's a dead blue, gray, creepy hand that grabs the little boy and yanks him into the water. Again, those of us who have a fear of drowning or have a fear of being grabbed, this is all of those like crammed into one. And it was a
Mhm.
jump out moment. You knew something was going to happen, you just didn't know what it was. And it was a hand of a dead little boy reaching out of the water and grabbing. And it doesn't just reach out, it like it jumps out of the
Oh
water,
yeah,
pulls him in.
I was legitimately scared in this moment.
I have to say that I held my breath from this moment until the end
Oh.
of the scene. I did not breathe. It's like Lucas gets pulled in, Sam and Dean go running in and dive in after the boy. The sheriff gets pulled under. They can't find, and it's like you see the sheriff go under, like you
Yeah.
see him disappearing, like the camera's following him down into the water. Then they can't find Lucas. He's still under the water. So I'm still not breathing at this point. And then you can't see Dean. And I was, yeah, I literally was breathless until uh Dean is able to break the surface and rescue the little boy.
Yeah, it was a really intense scene. Or like it wasn't even that long. It was like a couple minutes, maybe, if that, maybe 1 minute.
Oh, even just describing it, I'm like,
But this was totally like a Jaws kind of thing because, again, like you said, we don't see the thing. We just kind of assume that it's just the water
mhm,
is is the thing. And seeing this hand and then the face peering up,
yes.
that ghost is 100% the Grudge. Period. Like
Oh, because gray, white,
the circly, the
and
not
wet. I
yes.
mean, and evil.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just the eyes, because you don't see. He doesn't like the head doesn't come out. It's just
Like alligator
yep. And he makes eye contact with Dean and Sam
with the
with the head.
I think he makes like I think it's the sheriff. I think the
Oh, it's the
sheriff sees
sheriff.
him, and that's the moment where he's just like, "Oh shit, this is
Take
they were telling the truth the whole time. Oh my god!" And because he recognizes, I think, who he
the
is.
little boy.
Yeah,
The
I
little
know
boy
it was
wailed.
so creepy.
But at least the sheriff does the right thing and says, "Take me,
Yeah.
release Lucas, take me."
Mm-hmm.
And he does.
Yeah, he
But
does.
we don't know that he actually releases Lucas until Dean, bursts out of the water with him. And that moment, the not only did I like get to release my breath, but the emotions played. I have to say that little boy who played Lucas, so good, so good. And Dean's face in that moment of being able to rescue the little boy, it just the pain, the release of pain on his face. It was like, oh, such an emotional moment.
It was, but there was a moment where I mean, I knew how it was going to end, but you couldn't quite tell if this kid was alive or not at the
Right,
time. And even like the next couple of lines in the following scene, it almost plays out. You're not quite sure. I mean, if this
right.
was your first time watching the episode,
Yeah, you don't see him breathe.
no, and you don't see a CPR. You just see somber Sam and Dean going to the car and them saying like, we can't save everybody.
Right. Who didn't they save? Yeah.
Yeah, and then you
Was
see the kid, and then you're like, oh, phew.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that because I remember thinking that, but I didn't write it down. It was, and so I'm so glad you said that.
I did say for like a something that almost kind of took me out of the moment was when the dad was being dragged under the water. Like
Yeah, a
with his
little too.
hands. He almost
Yeah,
looked like he was waving. He
yeah,
almost looked like he was saying like bye.
too ballet. It
Yeah,
wasn't like he was. It's like either struggle or don't struggle.
yeah,
Either be resigned to the fact that you've done this and these are the consequences of your actions, or struggle against it. But this was like you said,
yeah,
yeah, the arms were just a little too balleric.
yeah.
Yes, that did kind of take me out of it. But he's used to driving race cars,
Right.
so
He's not used to drowning. Andrea seems awfully chipper, being that she just saw her dad get dragged down to the bottom of a lake by a murderous ghost.
right.
She's like, "Hey
Yes.
guys, here's some sandwiches."
Yeah. Yeah, and she's super happy that now Lucas is talking,
Yes,
you
which
know.
fair.
Yes, but yeah, angry ghost, murderous ghost, and your father's dead, even though you also found out that your father was a murderer.
That's true.
Um, but yeah, kind of weird. Like, how do you play that? Thanks, guys. I guess I'll go on with my life now.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy I didn't drown in a bathtub. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't show her like packing her car and leaving.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
it's kind of like the end of Poltergeist. Did you ever see the movie Poltergeist?
Only bits and pieces of it.
Well, they pack up and leave.
Oh, and then the house that kind of disappears
The
into
house,
itself, right? Like sucks into a
yeah,
little. Yeah,
yep,
I've seen that
yep.
part.
But it's like they get out, they leave. So it's like,
Yeah.
why aren't
Bye.
people who, this lake, the little drowned boy is still out there?
Right. The
No,
lake's gonna disappear anyway. I don't see why you wouldn't just leave now.
yeah, bye bye. You know, Figured it out. Let's go. How many more buried bicycles are there out there? But I thought that was funny. Another thing that I thought, not funny, haha, but is that they don't really make a point of Lucas's clairvoyant abilities.
Yeah.
It literally is like, hey, he pointed us in the right direction, and he pointed us to the house, to the bike. He did this all, and then that's it.
Yep.
There's no mention of him being, some sort of special kid.
Right.
And my question is, was he special just because like the ghost was actually acting through him, or was he actually a clairvoyant kid?
Right. Like I said earlier, they mentioned traumatic experiences can kind of bring on premonitions, but does that last for the rest of his lifetime?
Yeah.
Did it end just because of closure, because the spirit is finally satisfied,
Hmm.
finished his what do they call it? Like unfinished business?
Sure.
And is he now no longer clairvoyant?
Clairvoyant.
Clairvoyant?
Yeah. So that was just one of those, huh? And it didn't like slap me in the face, but it was one of those like I kind of sat back after a while and went, hey,
Yeah, yeah.
what about this, clairvoyancy? Isn't that kind of a supernatural thing to
Right.
focus on? I have to say, the end of this episode made me want to actually then tune in and watch the next one.
Yeah.
It- Because it was a happy, feel good moment. The heroes succeeded,
Hmm.
and I love having heroes, and I love it when they succeed.
Yeah.
And they did it. So I had to stop myself from just tuning in to watch the next one. And it wasn't like I can't wait to see what happens next. It was, I liked this, I want to continue this
Yes.
feeling.
Yes. And I think
um
part of that is, well, first off, at 42 minutes, 3 seconds, Dean finally gets his ladies' man moment where Andrea gives him a little smooch on the lips. And, she's just like, thank you so much for
mhm.
saving us. Which my question is like, no love for Sam. He literally saved your life and pulled you
Right.
out of a bathtub, but whatever.
Yeah. But she was totally into Sam, because she was always standing near Sam, she always
Yeah.
talked to Sam.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
always thought that her connection was with Sam. So yeah, the smoochie on the lips, I was like, why
Yeah. I was like,
why
why is
would
Dean always get? Why does Dean always get it? But then Dean, to his credit, he
took her back
accepts
from
the kiss and he basically says, well, he doesn't say thank you, but he acknowledges it, I guess, and says, okay, well, I have to move on now. He doesn't stay for fun.
right. Right.
Call back from the beginning of the episode.
Yep.
he does the right thing and says, okay, well,
I've helped. It's
this
time.
was that moment. I'm not going to push it anymore. This, let's go.
Yep.
So they're in the car and they drive away, and this song plays, which does not sound like classic rock to me.
No, it's another one of those why that song?
Yeah.
Why in this moment? Why that song?
That is an early 2000 song for sure.
Yep.
I don't know what it is specifically, but
I don't either, and I didn't even want to look it up. I was just like,
it was an odd song choice considering
Yep.
they always play
Rock
on the
out.
classic rock.
Yep. So, did you do any research into the drowned boy story?
No, because I figured this was not a local legend. This was something very specific to this community in this town. It was,
Mhm.
I guess I could have ghosts, connections with, people drowning in lakes. So no, I did not do any
I
research for
did.
them. You did?
I'm so sorry. I did. Yep.
No, good. But
And here's the thing that got me. There is a drowned boy story that took place in 1948 on the Big Island of Hawaii.
oh my God.
Yes, where we have both worked for many, many, many,
Yeah.
many summers.
Where on
Uh,
the Big Island? Do you know?
the Hilo side, just south of
Okay.
Hilo. The town at the time was called Ola'a. Over time, as happens in Hawaii, town names change, and the town is now Kea'aa'u. The story is that there was a bunch of boys playing by the waterside of a lake, more like a waterfall pond type
Mm-hmm,
of
mm-hmm.
thing. One of the boys fell in. The other boys couldn't um, get him. They couldn't
Uh-huh.
retrieve him. So when rescue divers dove down into the pond to find him, they found his body in a seated position on like an outcropping of rocks under the water. And they said that they found his body just kind of floating, swaying in the water. Uh, and so the story then grew. I mean, they couldn't revive him. He obviously had been down for too long. But it then became that lake, that pond became kind of a haunted area where another boy was walking with his father along the outside, and the little boy uh, somehow fell in, but uh, not spectators, but people who were there said they heard the little boy call out to his father, "Something has me, something has me," and the little boy was just like pulled under. They were able to rescue him, but he said that something had grabbed him and pulled him under, and so they always thought it was the ghost of the drowned boy who was just looking for he was looking for like playmates to join him under the water.
Oh my God.
So our connection.
Oh my God, I have goosebumps. And for those listening, you can't see, but my eyeballs were literally
They were
widening and widening as the story kept going. Holy
Yep.
shit.
Isn't
That
that
is
crazy?
scary. Good find. Very good find.
Yep. And again, our connections, we don't both always have a connection to the episode or to a
Uh-huh.
character, but I have found so far that in every episode, each one of us have had some sort of
Yeah.
personal connection. You more
Yeah.
than me,
Well,
but I'll catch up.
there were only 3 in, so.
I know. I'll catch up. But I thought you would like that.
Oh my God, I loved that. Ooh, spooky, spooky.
Yes. Yes. That was such a good episode.
I loved this episode so much. And now I want to get back to the point where, we were talking about how super douchey Dean was in the beginning. He redeems himself, I feel, in the end. And I feel like the writers, it was a little in your face, but I think that they made him and the waitress like purposely
Over the top.
so over the top so he could have this really redeeming
Mhm.
finish, or
Yeah.
a journey. It was a redeeming journey, because once he connects with this kid, he's just like, oh,
You can
here
now
we
name the
yeah,
kid.
he can now name at least one kid, and he shares a very unique connection with this kid in that they've witnessed their parents die by supernatural causes,
Mhm.
and he opens up to this kid, and it kind of softens him a little bit. And I think,
Yeah.
I don't know if it was like Sam being there that kind of
To witness it?
um, yeah, because I can't imagine that that Dean wouldn't have had these kind of moments in the many years on the road.
Mhm.
So I don't know. there has to be like something with Sam being there with him to have it stick
Yeah.
this time.
Right. Right.
And maybe it's because Sam is kind of the moral compass. I can't imagine his dad probably was.
No, it's such a disappointment to see you know, the John Winchester character who went from this like loving dad and wanting to play football with his kids to almost abandoning them
Yeah.
for his own journey,
Yeah.
and I always kind of held that against him.
Mhm.
Um until you learn more about his backstory. But initially I was like, where did dad go?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why wasn't he there for Sam?
Right.
You know,
Right.
everyone's there, everyone saves, Sam from the burning house and then abandons him,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
you know?
But that was why when I got to the end of the episode, I forgave those cringy moments in the
In the
beginning.
beginning. Yeah. I do like though in that kiss moment, she kisses him,
Yes.
and he doesn't respond to it. He doesn't like move into it.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't turn, it's not a sexual fun
Right.
thing. It's a connection. He
Yeah.
actually made a human connection to somebody. And it was that other person who broke into his little bubble.
Mhm.
Like she kissed him. She broke down his little barrier and kissed him on the lips.
Right.
And I don't know if that fully forgives, but
Mhm.
it definitely completes the arc, and it's
Yeah.
satisfying. It's a satisfying,
Uh-huh.
he was this and now there's that, and it was a woman who brought him to that moment.
Right. A
So,
woman and a kid too. The kid
and
definitely had a lot to do with this. So this was the episode I think in this rewatch and kind of starting with the blank slate ish that I really started to like Dean.
yeah.
I mean, yes, I did like him before, but coming into this with like new eyes, I guess
Mhm.
this was
Cuz
the episode that made me like Dean.
we still don't know who the show's being written for. You know what
Right.
I mean? Is it about monsters? Is it about Sam? Is it about Dean? Is it about the both of them? What's the show really about? And along the way, everybody finds a character that they gravitate towards.
Yeah.
And initially, I was really angry at the Dean character.
Uh-huh.
Honestly, I didn't like his habits. I didn't like his not peccadillos. That's not the right word for it. Um, but yeah, I mean, he's the bad boy.
Yeah.
He's the bad boy, and Sam is the good guy, the good boy, the good son. And so there was so much about Dean that I like because I like the hero, the swagger. I didn't like the doucheness of him initially. And so his character would anger me
Yeah.
sometimes. I was like, why do they have to make that part of his character? Well,
Right.
because they have to.
Yes.
you know, but
He
that
has to
doesn't mean
start
that
from somewhere in order to get somewhere.
exactly. But in those moments, I responded, and I'm sure I gave them the writers the response they were looking for, which was I didn't just swoon at his feet. I swooned at his swagger, but I also was like, I hate this guy at the
Yeah.
same time. It's like I
Yeah.
want him to rescue me. Yeah, I want him to win, but I don't want him to win by looking at porn all day. you
Uh-huh.
know, not that he does. So it's little things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was a redeeming moment that you're allowed to hold on to.
Mhm.
Um,
So yes, loved this episode. I pretty much loved everything about it. I thought the lighting was fantastic. I thought the sound design was fantastic, and even not just the water,
oh,
but just the
oh,
little sounds. Like I've always loved hearing like footsteps, if they have like a certain sound. You
yes,
can hear the paper rustling when the kid is drawing and like
drawing.
changing papers, just like little things like that. It really, and also because I was wearing headphones, I think I could hear them even more closely and intimately. But intimate, that's what it was. It was like such an
Intimate.
intimate episode, especially with
Yeah.
the water running and like splashing against the sink in the bathtub. And I don't know.
Yep.
I really was like obsessed with the sound in this one for whatever
Yes.
reason.
No, I mean that's how I was in the first episode with the sound of the house.
Yeah.
I was like, didn't you hear the house groaning? And you're like, no.
No.
Absolutely. Excellent production qualities, and I hate to use that word, but excellent production
Yeah.
quality because it just wraps around you.
Yeah.
It just brings you in, and it holds you in the show rather than taking you out that one CG moment of the boat. But
Right.
but still, I mean, when I produce my own TV show, I
Right.
No, that's never going to happen. Just FYI, I have no aspirations. I am not a filmmaker wannabe at all. I want to watch TV.
Yeah, so I had this idea and I tried to find this tweet again so I could credit them, and I just couldn't. I couldn't re-find it because I couldn't remember who retweeted it or liked it or whatever. But it said something along the lines of, have you ever tried to explain the supernatural plot to someone who doesn't watch it and then just realize how absolutely insane you sound? Considering they just go through so many things. So that kind of gave me an idea of like, what if we tried to recap this episode in as many characters as like a tweet allows, which is like 280. It's probably the amount of the actual description, that was in Netflix, but that's not funny. So so I thought, I was like, what if we did like a recap of our recap specific to us?
Oh no. A recap of our recap?
Yes.
Oh god, that's gonna be just as long as the actual recap.
No, because it's in 280 characters. That's all you
Oh,
get. All that's allowed in a tweet. One tweet. Not a thread, one tweet. Did you write one?
I was gonna do it off the cuff. But
Ah, okay.
you do. No, you do. You
I
do it.
I wrote one.
Okay.
And then you can go. Okay.
Okay.
So brothers drive to creepy lake that's killing everyone. Find kid who draws premonition pictures. Lake sneaks into plumbing on its murderous spree. The lake is actually the Grudge. Nice cop who murdered Grudge years ago sacrifices himself. Dean goes from horn dog to puppy dog.
I can't beat that. I can't beat that.
Yes, you can.
No, not with horn dog to puppy dog. Come on. Oh.
Okay, well, here's the deal. Next episode is yours.
Okay. I was gonna say something about I, ended up going down a rabbit hole looking at angel footage.
Oh.
Because of guest stars,
Yes.
got waylaid into watching
Oh, that would have been good too.
Angels episodes.
Okay, so you do the next episode. And I actually wrote mine in Twitter so I would know
Oh, how many?
like
Okay.
how many to do. I didn't publish it, but
Yeah, I thought you were just gonna be like, and go.
no.
So,
I can't do that for myself. I'm not an off the cuff type of person, unfortunately.
no, I like yours. Okay, I will do the next one.
Okay. Okay, and
Um,
then we'll alternate like that. Unless there's
sound-
like a really good episode, then we'll both do one.
Okay. Or we could both,
Or could we just both do one?
or we could just pick who,
Yeah.
like, whose is better, like
Right.
whose would be a better one.
So that's going to wrap it up for episode 3, Dead in the Water. We will see you next week for Phantom Traveler.
Phantom Traveler.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.